Welcome back to Emberlight Echoes, where ghost stories don't make you jump, but gently ease you into a peaceful slumber. Tonight, we're leaving the truly frightening specters behind for a very special place, a Louisiana plantation, where the spirits prefer playful pranks to spine-chilling scares. So close your eyes, relax your mind, and let my voice and the peculiar imagery guide you. The air hangs thick and humid, heavy with the scent of Spanish moss and damp earth. Cicadas buzz their relentless chorus, a sound that seems to vibrate through the very bones of the old Louisiana plantation. Tonight, we delve into a place steeped in history, where the veil between worlds feels whisper-thin. Belle Reve Plantation, our fictional name. Forget your typical wailing specters and rattling chains. The spirits of Belle Reve are different. They're known for their playful antics, their mischievous pranks that range from the mildly irritating to the downright absurd. This isn't a place that inspires terror, but rather a sense of bemused curiosity. Why are these spirits so fond of a good chuckle at the expense of the living? Imagine stepping onto the overgrown grounds as dusk begins to settle. The grand, albeit slightly weathered, main house looms, its white columns casting long, skeletal shadows in the fading light. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves of ancient oak trees, their branches draped with that iconic Spanish moss, swaying like ghostly beards. But even in this seemingly serene setting, there are hints of the unusual. Perhaps a porch swing sways gently, though no one is near. Maybe a faint melody, like a forgotten folk tune played on a slightly out-of-tune harmonica, drifts from an empty window. Or perhaps, just perhaps, you catch the fleeting scent of pipe tobacco, though no one on the property currently smokes. These are the subtle calling cards of Belle Reve's resident pranksters. They aren't malicious, but they are certainly present, their energy woven into the very fabric of this old southern estate. Join us as we explore the stories, the legends, and the quirky phenomena that make Belle Reve Plantation a truly unique haunt. Tonight we ask, why are these Louisiana spirits so fond of a good prank? Welcome back to Belle Reve Plantation, where the air is thick with humidity and even thicker with unseen mischief. Last time, we set the scene, the grand old house looming, Spanish moss swaying, and the subtle hints of playful spirits already, making their presence known. Now let's turn our attention to the specific spectral residents who call this unique Louisiana estate home. These aren't your typical malevolent phantoms. Think less horror, more harmless hijinks. The most frequently encountered spirit, and arguably the most beloved, is Old Man Tiber. He was, by all accounts, a grumpy but ultimately good-natured plantation overseer who passed away peacefully in his sleep right here at Belle Reve. But death didn't dampen his love for a good practical joke. Visitors often report finding their hats mysteriously moved from one room to another, or discovering that a carefully placed book has suddenly appeared on the highest shelf. His signature prank? A soft, inexplicable tug on someone's sleeve when they're not looking, often followed by a faint, raspy chuckle that seems to dissipate into the humid air. He's the benign old uncle who just can't resist a bit of fun. Then, there's Lila, a young girl who tragically drowned in the nearby bayou in the late 1800s. Unlike Tiber, her pranks are more childlike and whimsical. She's known for giggling sounds that echo from empty children's rooms, or the gentle rattling of antique toys left untouched for decades. Guests have reported waking up to find their shoes neatly tied together, or a single, small, muddy footprint appearing on a freshly cleaned floor. Her energy is innocent, almost sweet, but undeniably mischievous. She finds joy in these small, playful disturbances. Finally, we have the collective Bayou Boys, a group of Confederate soldiers who purportedly used Belle Reve as a temporary hospital during the Civil War. Their presence is more subtle, often manifesting as faint campfire smells in odd corners of the house or the distinct, almost melodic clinking of unseen poker chips from the old parlor. Their pranks are less personal. They might subtly rearrange furniture in a way that just makes things a little less convenient, or cause a door to creak open slowly when no breeze is present, only to slam shut gently a moment later. They seem to enjoy causing minor confusion, a lingering camaraderie in their afterlife. These spirits, each with their own unique brand of mischief, contribute to the distinctly non-threatening yet undeniably haunted atmosphere of Belle Reve Plantation. They aren't trying to scare you. They just want to remind you that they're still around, perhaps just bored and looking for a bit of entertainment. As our journey continues through Belle Reve Plantation, the subtle hints of mischief from Old Man Tiber, Lila, and the Bayou Boys begin to escalate into more direct, albeit still playful, encounters. These are the moments that have made Belle Reve a unique spot on the paranormal map, not for terror, but for its utterly baffling and sometimes hilarious pranks. One of the most common early experiences for new visitors or overnight guests is the phantom kettle whistle. You might be in the kitchen, perhaps just boiling water for tea, when a phantom whistle erupts from an unseen kettle, often from a stove that's not even lit. It's loud enough to make you jump, only to find nothing there. Sometimes, a real kettle might even start to bubble, even if the heat is off. It's a quick, startling tease that perfectly sets the tone for Belle Reve's unique brand of haunting. Then there are the missing objects. This is a classic prankster spirit move, and it's a favorite of Old Man Tiber. You'll set down your glasses, your keys, or even your phone, only to find them gone moments later. After a frantic search, they inevitably reappear in the most improbable places, perhaps nestled inside a forgotten boot in the closet, or hanging from a chandelier in the dining room. The kicker? They're always placed neatly, never simply tossed aside. It's a game of hide-and-seek orchestrated by the unseen. Lila, with her childlike whimsy, often manifests as the tinkling toy phenomenon. In the old nursery or children's bedroom, untouched antique toys, a porcelain doll, a wooden spinning top, or a small music box will suddenly begin to move or make sounds on their own. The doll might slowly turn its head to watch you. The top might spin with a faint whirring sound, or the music box might play a single hauntingly sweet note. It's never threatening, just a clear indication that a playful young spirit is near. The Bayou Boys, true to their subtly disruptive nature, are fond of the door drags. Imagine you're walking down a long corridor, and a heavy wooden door, perhaps to a seldom-used pantry or a dusty servant's quarters, will slowly drag open just a few inches, revealing only darkness. As you watch, it will slowly, deliberately drag. Shut again, without a gust of wind or any visible push. It's a subtle, drawn-out moment of confusion designed to make you question your sanity. Finally, the most amusingly intrusive prank is the hat swap. Often reported by male visitors, you might leave your hat on a coat rack, only to find a completely different, and usually much older, stranger hat in its place when you return. Sometimes it's a worn-out Civil War-era cap, other times a bizarre, straw sun hat. Your own hat might later be discovered perched on a bust in the parlor, or perhaps even floating gently in the fountain outside. It's a bold, signature move that leaves visitors chuckling, if a little bewildered. These are just a few of the peculiar ways the spirits of Belle Reve introduce themselves. They remind us that not all hauntings are about fear. Some are about a timeless game of cosmic hide-and-seek, played by spirits who simply refuse to be bored. As we continue our tour of Belle Reve, delving deeper into the whimsical world of its playful spirits, it's worth examining the historical context that might have shaped their mischievous tendencies. Unlike the tragic, often dark narratives associated with many haunted locations, Belle Reve's past, while not without its hardships, seems to have fostered a lighter, more mischievous brand of haunting. The plantation itself was established in the early 1800s, primarily cultivating cotton and sugarcane. The original family, the Dubois, were known for their love of grand parties, lively music, and elaborate parlor games. Imagine evenings filled with laughter echoing through the halls, the clinking of champagne glasses, and the rustle of ball gowns. It's plausible that this vibrant social energy, infused into the very foundations of the house, created a residual joy that the spirits continue to manifest through their pranks. They aren't trying to scare, they're trying to play, even the resident. Bayou boys, the Confederate soldiers, seemed to retain a sense of camaraderie and levity. Records suggest that during their temporary stay as a makeshift hospital, morale, while often low, was sometimes boosted by small acts of rebellion against their grim circumstances, quiet card games, whispered jokes, and perhaps even minor harmless pranks on their weary officers. This enduring spirit of playful defiance could be why their current manifestations involve subtle rearrangements and door drags rather than mournful cries. Old Man Tiber, the overseer, despite his gruff exterior, was reportedly a man who enjoyed a good practical joke, especially if it involved a clever setup and a bewildered reaction. Stories from local lore speak of him hiding fishing poles or swapping out farm tools to confound the hands, only to reveal his trick with a hearty laugh. It seems his earthly penchant for mischief simply transcended into his spectral existence. And Lila, the young girl, perhaps her pranks are a manifestation of a childhood cut short, a desire to continue the games she never finished. Her simple, innocent mischief, the tied shoes, the moving toys, might be her way of interacting with the living, reliving the joy of play that was tragically taken from her. Her spirit seeks connection through harmless amusement, a timeless echo of youthful exuberance. It seems the very fabric of Belle Reve is imbued with a history of playful energy, from the Dubois family's lively gatherings to the soldiers' quiet defiance and Tiber's personal brand of humor. The past here isn't just a collection of events, it's a living, breathing atmosphere of subtle amusement and light-hearted haunting. These spirits aren't trapped by tragedy, they're still playing, still living out their unique forms of joy in the afterlife. Section 5. The playful pranks escalated. Welcome back to Belle Reve Plantation, where the charmingly mischievous spirits continue to weave their invisible threads through the very fabric of the old southern estate. We've explored their individual quirks and the historical echoes that might explain their playful nature. Now let's dive into some of the more elaborate and frequently reported pranks that truly set Belle Reve apart from your average haunted house. These are the moments when the spirits step beyond subtle hints and engage in genuinely amusing, sometimes bewildering, theatrics. One of the most talked-about phenomena is the disappearing dinner. Imagine setting a beautifully prepared meal on a grand dining table, perhaps for guests, only to turn your back for a moment and find a single cooked chicken leg mysteriously missing, or a carefully arranged fruit bowl suddenly empty of its ripest apple. It's never the whole meal, just enough to make you doubt your sanity or wonder if you're suddenly terribly absent-minded. This particular prank is often attributed to the collective efforts of the Bayou boys, perhaps reminiscing about snatched rations during their wartime days. Then there's Lila's most whimsical and perhaps most perplexing trick, the floating tea party. Guests in the master bedroom or parlor have occasionally reported seeing antique teacups and saucers, sometimes even a small teapot, gently levitate a few inches off a side table, float in a small, slow circle, and then carefully settle back down. It's done with such delicacy that it feels less like a haunting and more like a private, ethereal performance for an unseen audience. The only evidence left behind might be a faint, sweet floral scent lingering in the air. Old Man Tiber, with his dry wit, loves the phantom bell rings. Throughout the house, there are still old servant bells connected to various rooms. Visitors, Might hear the faint, insistent ringing of a bell from an empty bedroom, or the distant ding-dong of the main entrance bell, even when no one is outside. He particularly enjoys ringing the bell for rooms that are currently occupied by a very startled visitor, watching their confused attempts to find the source. It's his way of demanding attention, even from beyond the grave. The most unnerving, yet still largely harmless, prank is the whispering portraits. In the grand hallway where ancestral portraits line the walls, visitors have sometimes reported hearing faint, almost inaudible whispers emanating directly from the painted lips of the figures in the portraits. The whispers are never clear, just a jumble of soft, indistinct murmurs, as if the painted eyes are truly watching and commenting on the living. It's a chilling detail that adds to the unsettling charm. Finally, the pinnacle of belles rêves. Playful hauntings is the hat cascade. This elaborate prank usually occurs in the main foyer. A collection of hats, both antique and those belonging to visitors, will suddenly and simultaneously tumble from their hooks on the coat rack, landing in a perfect comical pile on the floor. It's a quick, theatrical moment of chaos, seemingly orchestrated for maximum surprise and minimum harm, leaving everyone wondering, what just happened? This is believed to be a collaborative effort, a grand finale from the mischievous spirits of Belle Reve. These playful escalations cement Belle Reve Plantation's reputation not as a place of fear, but as a living theater of cosmic comedy, where the spirits are less interested in tormenting the living and more keen on reminding them that life, and indeed the afterlife, is full of delightful surprises. Section 6. The long-term effects of playful haunting as. Our investigation into Belle Reve's mischievous spirits nears its end. We consider the long-term impact of living in a house perpetually filled with playful pranks. Unlike locations known for malevolent entities, Belle Reve's unique brand of haunting has cultivated a very different atmosphere, shaping the lives of its inhabitants in unexpected ways. For generations of owners and staff at Belle Reve, the initial shock of a phantom bell ring or a disappearing object quickly gave way to a grudging acceptance, and then, often, a quiet affection for their spectral residents. The pranks became a part of daily life, almost like having eccentric, invisible family members. You learn to check your hat before leaving, to laugh when your keys reappear in a teacup, and to simply acknowledge the unseen presence when a door creaks open. This normalization of the supernatural has led to a remarkable sense of calm regarding the paranormal, a quiet understanding that these aren't malevolent forces, but rather playful echoes of the past. The plantation has also developed an unusual reputation, drawing visitors not for jump scares, but for its whimsical charm. People come specifically hoping to witness a floating teacup or experience a gentle tug on their sleeve. This has transformed Belle Reve from a quiet historical site into a unique form of comfort-haunting tourism. It's a safe space to explore, the supernatural, a place where the unknown is more amusing than terrifying. However, life with prankster spirits isn't always perfectly smooth. There have been tales of minor inconveniences escalating, a perfectly ironed shirt mysteriously tied into knots just before a formal event, or a carefully prepared historical document having its pages subtly reordered. These moments, while still not truly harmful, can test the patience of even the most accepting residents. It's a constant reminder that while benign, these spirits certainly have a strong will and a persistent sense of humor. Ultimately, the story of Belle Reve Plantation and its playful spirits serves as a fascinating case study in paranormal activity. It suggests that the afterlife isn't always grim and terrifying. It can also be filled with laughter, light-hearted mischief, and a perpetual game of cosmic hide-and-seek. The enduring mystery isn't if the ghosts are real, but rather why they find so much joy in their amusing antics, continuously bringing a unique brand of ethereal entertainment to their old Louisiana home. Section 7. The science, or lack thereof, of playful haunting. As our exploration of Belle Reve Plantation's mischievous spirits deepens, it's natural to wonder, what exactly is happening here? While the stories are charming and the pranks amusing, can any of this be explained? We delve into the various theories, both scientific and speculative, attempting to make sense of Belle Reve's unique paranormal activity. Many skeptics and scientific investigators would point to logical, earthly explanations. The old age of the plantation house itself can account for many of the sounds. The expansion and contraction of ancient timber, due to temperature and humidity shifts, could easily explain creaking doors and phantom footsteps. The gentle sway of the porch swing might be attributed to subtle air currents or even unbalanced construction. Misplaced items could simply be the result of human forgetfulness or poor organization, later reappearing when subconsciously remembered or accidentally found. The faint smells could be residual odors trapped in old fabrics or wood. From a purely scientific standpoint, every prank could have a mundane explanation. However, the sheer consistency and variety of the playful phenomena at Belle Reve make a purely skeptical view difficult for some. Why do objects reappear in such specific and humorous ways? Why do distinct individual personalities seem to emerge through the pranks? The gruff humor of Tiber, the childlike whimsy of Lila, the collective mischief of the Bayou Boys. If it's all just environmental factors, why the seemingly intentional nature of the jokes? Paranormal theories, of course, offer a different perspective. Many believe Belle Reve is a prime example of a residual haunting, where intense emotions or repetitive actions from the past leave an energetic imprint on a location. The lively parties, Tiber's practical jokes, Lila's innocent play, and the soldiers' camaraderie could all be playing out endlessly like a recording. The spirits aren't conscious or malicious, but rather echoes of past playful energies. Others suggest a form of intelligent haunting, where the spirits are indeed conscious and aware, choosing to interact with the living through non-threatening pranks. Perhaps they feed off the amusement or bewilderment of the living, finding joy in continuing their old habits in the afterlife. Their benign nature makes them approachable, allowing for these unique interactions that bypass fear. Ultimately, Belle Reve Plantation remains a captivating enigma. Whether explained by science, folklore, or something in between, the constant, amusing chaos it offers invites us to consider the lighter side of the paranormal. It's a place where the line between natural occurrence and supernatural mischief is perpetually blurred, leaving visitors with more chuckles than chills. Section 8. The Sleepy Appeal of Belle Reve. As our journey through the prank-filled halls of Belle Reve Plantation concludes, we are left with a deeper understanding of why these particular spirits and their amusing antics resonate so strongly, especially for those seeking boring ghost stories for sleep. Belle Reve isn't just a haunted house, it's a unique comfort zone in the paranormal landscape, offering solace and gentle amusement rather than spine-tingling fear. The very nature of the pranks, the subtly moved objects, the phantom kettle whistles, the gently floating teacups are designed to intrigue rather than terrify. They don't induce nightmares. Instead, they provide a sense of whimsical mystery. There's no lurking malevolence, no screaming specters, just a persistent, gentle reminder of a lively past and the playful personalities that remain tethered to this Louisiana estate. This makes Belle Reve an ideal setting for narratives aimed at relaxation and sleep. The danger is minimal, the curiosity high, and the outcome always a chuckle. Furthermore, the established personalities of Old Man Tiber, Lila, and the Bayou Boys contribute significantly to this sleepy appeal. They are not faceless, terrifying entities. Tiber is a gruff but endearing prankster, Lila a sweet and innocent child, and the Bayou Boys a band of harmless comrades. Their intentions are clear. They want to play, not to harm. This characterization allows listeners to form a benign connection with the spirits, viewing them as eccentric residents rather than frightening apparitions. This humanization, even of the spectral, fosters a sense of safety and familiarity. The consistency of these benign hauntings over generations has created an almost therapeutic environment. Belle Reve offers a unique escape, a fantasy world where the paranormal is charmingly inconvenient rather than truly threatening. For those who enjoy a touch of the supernatural but prefer to avoid anxiety before bed, the tales of Belle Reve's clumsy and amusing ghosts are the perfect fit. It's a reminder that even in the afterlife there can be lightheartedness and enduring joy. Ultimately, Belle Reve Plantation stands as a testament to the diverse nature of paranormal phenomena. It challenges our preconceived notions of what a haunting must be, proving that the spectral realm isn't solely the domain of dread. It's a place where the history whispers with laughter and the spirits continue to perform their delightful, sleepy pranks, inviting you to drift off into dreams, filled with gentle whimsy. Conclusion and farewell. Belle Reve's gentle haunts, as our journey through the charmingly mischievous Belle Reve Plantation comes to an end. We hope you've discovered the delightful, sleepy side of the paranormal. This old Louisiana estate, with its playful spirits like Old Man Tiber, Lila, and the Bayou Boys, offers a unique kind of haunting, one filled with gentle pranks and whimsical antics rather than chilling frights. It's a place where the supernatural provides comfort and a quiet chuckle, proving that not all ghosts are here to scare. Some just want to play. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the Sleepy Paranormal Podcast and for immersing yourselves in these unique, illustrated stories. We've enjoyed bringing the clumsy ghost of the Winchester Mystery House and the prankster spirits of Belle Reve to life in the style of ancient manuscripts. We hope these tales have provided a soothing backdrop for your dreams and sparked your imagination. A warm welcome to Emberlight Echoes. Welcome, dear listeners, to Emberlight Echoes, the sanctuary where the veil between worlds thins, not to terrify but to tenderly lull you into a state of serene contemplation. Forget the jump scares, the chilling screams, and the restless nights that other tales of the supernatural might bring. Here, our whispers from the beyond are designed to be as comforting as a warm blanket on a stormy night, guiding you not into fear, but into the deepest, most peaceful slumber. Tonight, we embark on a tranquil journey to a rugged stretch of New England coastline, where a weathered sentinel has stood guard for centuries against the relentless embrace of the Atlantic. The Old Salem Lighthouse. Its unwavering beam has sliced through countless fogs and darkest nights, a silent promise of safe passage. But it's not merely the light from its magnificent lantern that guides those who navigate these treacherous waters. This iconic tower holds echoes of a spirit just as steadfast, a gentle presence whose dedication transcended life itself. Join us as we explore the subtle, heartwarming mystery of Whispers of the Beyond, the gentle haunting of the Old Salem Lighthouse Keeper. We'll delve into the quiet life of Elias Thorne, a man whose profound devotion to his light imprinted itself onto the very stones of his beloved tower. Prepare to hear of phantom polishes on gleaming brass, the soft hum of gears long silenced, and a warmth in the cold that speaks of a benevolent hand. This is not a tale of spectral torment, but of an enduring watch, a tireless guardian who still tends his post from beyond the veil. So dim the lights, settle into your most comfortable spot, and let the rhythmic cadence of the waves and the quiet dedication of Elias Thorne's spirit wash over you. Close your eyes, let go of the day's worries, and allow the gentle whispers of the Old Salem Lighthouse Keeper to guide you into a night of serene dreams. Section 1. The Lantern's Lonely. Watch, the air in Salem is thick with the tang of salt and the mournful cries of distant gulls. Tonight, our spectral journey takes us to a weathered sentinel standing guard against the ceaseless embrace of the Atlantic. The Old Salem Lighthouse. For generations, its unwavering beam has sliced through fog and darkness, guiding ships safely to harbor. But beyond its practical purpose, the lighthouse holds whispers of a more ethereal presence, the gentle haunting of its former keeper. Imagine the scene. Dusk descends upon the rocky coastline, the whitewashed tower of the lighthouse, scarred by countless storms, stands stark against the bruised purple and orange of the fading sky. Waves crash against the shore with a rhythmic roar, their foamy fingers reaching towards the land. A lone, flickering gas lamp illuminates the winding stone steps, leading up the interior of the tower, casting long, dancing shadows. For many years, the old Salem lighthouse was the solitary domain of Elias Thorne. A man as weathered and resilient as the tower itself, Elias dedicated his life to the steady vigilance of the lantern. Even after his passing, longtime residents and occasional late-night boaters have reported a subtle, comforting presence around the lighthouse. This isn't a tale of ghostly terror, but rather a lingering sense of dedication, a gentle echo of Elias's unwavering watch. Perhaps on a particularly foggy night, you might glimpse a faint, warm glow emanating from the lantern, room before the automated light officially activates. Or maybe you'll hear the distinct rhythmic creak of the lantern mechanism turning, even when the machinery is known to be still. Some have even described a fleeting scent of old pipe tobacco carried on the sea breeze near the tower's base, a scent strongly associated with the late Elias. These are not frightening occurrences, but rather subtle reminders of a life deeply intertwined with the lighthouse. It's as if Elias, even in spirit, continues his lonely vigil, a benevolent guardian watching over the coastline he served so faithfully in life. Join us as we ascend the winding steps of the old Salem lighthouse and listen for the gentle whispers of its devoted keeper. Section 2. The Life of Elias Thorne. Welcome back to the old Salem lighthouse, where the salty air carries more than just the scent of the ocean. It brings whispers of its most dedicated keeper, Elias Thorne. To truly understand the gentle haunting that persists here, we must delve into the life of the man himself, a life deeply intertwined with the very pulse of this coastal beacon. Elias Thorne was not a man of grand adventures or dramatic tales. He was a man of quiet routine and unwavering responsibility, born in a small coastal town not far from Salem in the mid-1800s. From a young age, the sea called to him, and he found his purpose not on the decks of ships, but in safeguarding those who sailed them. He began his career as an assistant lighthouse keeper in his youth, learning the meticulous craft of maintaining the delicate machinery and the powerful lantern. He eventually became the principal keeper of the old Salem lighthouse, a role he embraced with a singular devotion. His days were a rhythmic cycle, tending the lamp, polishing the brass, winding the intricate clockwork mechanism that rotated the light, and meticulously logging weather conditions and passing vessels. He was a solitary figure by necessity, but not by choice. The lighthouse was his world, and the passing ships his only distant companions. It is said that Elias rarely left the lighthouse grounds. He found solace in the predictable rhythm of the waves and the comforting hum of the lamp. He had a particular fondness for a well-worn, leather-bound book of sea shanties, which he would hum softly to himself during long, foggy nights. He also possessed a peculiar habit. He would often leave a small, smooth piece of sea glass on the main platform each morning, a silent offering to the sea he respected so deeply. Elias Thorne passed away peacefully in the very lantern room he so diligently tended, a man whose lifelight never truly dimmed. His deep connection to the lighthouse, his quiet dedication, and his gentle habits laid the foundation for the subtle, comforting hauntings we experience today. He wasn't a man to cause alarm in life, and it seems he remains so in death, a benevolent, lingering presence ensuring his beloved light continues to shine. Section 3. The Gentle Manifestations. Returning to the old Salem lighthouse, where Elias Thorne once kept his diligent vigil, we now turn our attention to the specific ways his gentle presence manifests. Unlike the boisterous pranks of Belle Reeve, Elias's haunting is a subtle, comforting echo of his life's dedication, a quiet reassurance that his watch continues. These aren't events meant to startle, but rather to soothe, leaving visitors with a sense of peace rather than fear. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the phantom Polish. Visitors to the lantern room, particularly those who appreciate the historical significance of the lighthouse, might notice that the brass fixtures and glass lenses appear exceptionally clean and gleaming, even shortly after a group has passed through. Some have even described a faint, almost imperceptible scent of brass polish in the air long after any cleaning supplies have been used. It's as if Elias, in his quiet way, continues his meticulous maintenance. Then there's the soft hum of the gears. The old Salem lighthouse now operates with modern automated equipment. However, on calm, clear nights, when the air is still and silent, a faint rhythmic whirring or clicking sound can sometimes be heard emanating from the lantern mechanism. It's the distinct sound of the old clockwork gears, a comforting, anachronistic melody that was once the constant backdrop to Elias's lonely nights. It's a quiet whisper of his enduring routine. Perhaps the most personal manifestation is the warmth in the cold. The lighthouse, exposed to the harsh Atlantic elements, can be quite chilly, especially in the upper levels. Yet, some visitors have reported feeling a sudden, localized patch of warmth, like a gentle hand resting on their shoulder or back, particularly when standing in areas Elias would have frequented, such as near the lamp or the old logbook stand. It's a benevolent touch, a silent acknowledgement of his presence. Finally, there's the shifting sea glass. Elias's habit of leaving sea glass offerings continues. Sometimes a piece of sea glass that was clearly placed in one spot will be found in another, or a new, perfectly smooth piece will appear where there was none before. This subtle rearrangement is Elias's quiet nod, a continuous connection to the sea he loved and the rituals he performed. It's a small, gentle gesture from beyond the veil. These gentle manifestations paint a picture of a devoted soul still carrying out his duty, still connected to the place he called home. Elias Thorne's haunting isn't about fear. It's about the enduring spirit of dedication, a comforting echo in the timeless sentinel of the old Salem lighthouse. Section 4. The lighthouse's enduring legacy. As we continue our exploration of the old Salem lighthouse and its gentle guardian, Elias Thorne, it's crucial to understand how his quiet dedication has shaped the very essence of this iconic structure. Beyond the individual manifestations, Elias's enduring presence has woven itself into the fabric of the lighthouse's legacy, creating a unique atmosphere that sets it apart from other historical sites. The most profound legacy is the pervasive sense of safety and calm that visitors often report. Unlike many old structures with dark pasts, the lighthouse evokes a feeling of quiet protection. Even on stormy nights, those who visit or live nearby speak of a comforting stillness, a feeling that someone is always watching over the waters. This enduring sense of security is widely attributed to Elias's benevolent spirit, still carrying out his duty to guide and protect. Furthermore, the lighthouse has become a subtle beacon of unwavering dedication and peaceful solitude. Elias's life was a testament to commitment, and his haunting reinforces this message. Artists and writers are often drawn to the lighthouse, finding inspiration in its stoic presence and the quiet, persistent hum of its unseen keeper. It represents a simpler time, a life devoted to a single noble purpose, and Elias's spirit seems to foster this meditative quality in its visitors. There are also anecdotal reports of unexplained navigational assistance. Though modern lighthouses are automated, some local fishermen and sailors tell quiet tales of their instruments seeming to receive an extra boost of signal near the old Salem lighthouse during particularly treacherous fogs, or feeling an inexplicable sense of direction when disoriented. While impossible to prove, these stories highlight the enduring belief that Elias Thorne, even in death, continues to guide those who navigate his beloved waters. The enduring, gentle haunting of Elias Thorne has transformed the Old Salem Lighthouse from a mere historical landmark into a living testament to devotion. It's a place where the past isn't just remembered. It's subtly, peacefully, and perpetually present, a silent guardian against the endless tides, offering comfort and guidance from beyond the veil. Section 5, The Science of Gentle Hauntings. As we conclude our whispered journey through the Old Salem Lighthouse, a natural question arises. What explains the gentle, comforting haunting of Elias Thorne? Unlike the more dramatic phenomena sometimes reported, the subtlety of Elias's presence invites both scientific and speculative inquiry into the nature of his enduring watch. From a scientific perspective, many of the subtle manifestations could be attributed to the natural characteristics of an old lighthouse. The soft hum of the gears might simply be the sound of aging mechanisms settling or the creak of the structure under thermal expansion and contraction, amplified by the resonant properties of the tower. The phantom polish could be explained by lingering chemical residues from past maintenance or simply the way light interacts with well-maintained surfaces. The warmth in the cold might be localized drafts or variations in air currents that create temporary pockets of warmer air. Even the shifting sea glass could be a result of subtle vibrations, gravity, or small animals. Skeptics would argue that the deep emotional connection visitors feel to the lighthouse, especially after learning Elias's story, primes them to interpret ambiguous sensory data as paranormal. However, the consistent nature and specific personality of these manifestations often lead to deeper, more speculative theories. The gentle, benevolent, and duty-bound nature of the haunting strongly suggests a residual haunting, an energetic imprint of Elias Thorne's life and dedication. His repetitive actions, unwavering commitment, and profound emotional connection to the lighthouse could have left an indelible, energetic recording on the very stones and mechanisms of the tower. In this view, Elias isn't a conscious, interacting entity, but rather a persistent echo of his past self, forever fulfilling his role. Alternatively, some might propose a form of benevolent, intelligent haunting. In this theory, Elias's spirit is indeed conscious and aware, choosing to manifest in ways that reflect his character, comforting, protective, and perpetually dedicated to his post. He might derive a quiet satisfaction from knowing his light still guides, and perhaps offers a subtle, unseen nod of reassurance to those who appreciate his lifelong service. Ultimately, the gentle haunting of Elias Thorne at the Old Salem Lighthouse remains a captivating enigma. It reminds us that not all encounters with the beyond are frightening. Some are quiet, comforting, and deeply connected to the lives once lived. Elias's enduring presence is a testament to unwavering dedication, a gentle whisper from the past that continues to guide and protect in the timeless sentinel of the sea. Conclusion. The enduring watch of the Old Salem. Light, as the beam of the Old Salem Lighthouse fades into the digital twilight of our podcast, we linger for a moment on the profound sense of peace that permeates its weathered stones. Tonight, we haven't encountered rattling chains or chilling moans, but rather the subtle, comforting echoes of a life devoted to service. The gentle haunting of Elias Thorne is a testament to an enduring dedication, a whisper of responsibility that transcends the boundaries of life and death. Think back to the rhythmic creak of phantom gears, a sound that once accompanied Elias's lonely vigil. Consider the inexplicable warmth felt in the tower's chill, a fleeting touch of a presence unseen. Remember the sea glass, mysteriously shifting as if a familiar hand still tended its silent offering to the vast ocean. These are not the hallmarks of a tormented spirit, but the quiet affirmations of a soul still deeply connected to its earthly duty. Elias Thorne's story and his continued presence invites us to reconsider our perceptions of the paranormal. It suggests that hauntings are not always born of tragedy or malice, but can also arise from profound love for a place and an unwavering commitment to a purpose. The Old Salem Lighthouse stands not just as a historical landmark guiding ships, but as a beacon of devotion, its gentle haunting a soothing reminder that some spirits find their peace in continuing the work they cherished in life. We at Emberlight Echoes hope that this journey into the quiet mysteries of Salem has offered you a moment of tranquility. May the image of the steadfast lighthouse, its gentle light cutting through the darkness, and the comforting presence of its devoted keeper linger in your thoughts as you drift towards sleep. Perhaps tonight you too will feel a subtle warmth, a phantom turn of a page, a whisper of the beyond that brings not fear, but the quiet reassurance that some watches never truly end. Thank you for lending us your ears and your imaginations. Until our next spectral sojourn, may your dreams be peaceful and filled with the gentle echoes of stories that soothe the soul. Welcome back to Emberlight Echoes, the sanctuary where ghost stories aren't nightmares, but whispering lullabies from the beyond, guiding you into peaceful slumber. Forget the rattling chains and the lurking shadows. Here we find peculiar beauty and serenity even in the most mysterious. Tonight, our journey takes us to a quiet corner of Rhode Island, a place that should be filled with childish giggles and innocent joy. We'll open the door to an old toy shop, a place holding the unfinished dreams of those who have departed. This isn't a tale of terror, but of the playful, sometimes chaotic, yet utterly enchanting presence of a peculiar poltergeist. Objects might dance on their own, faint chuckles echo when no one is visible, and perhaps the memories of childhood are replayed in a uniquely spirited way. Join me as we explore Dreams of the Departed, exploring the peculiar poltergeist of a Rhode Island. Toy shop, relax your mind, close your eyes, and let the whispers and mysterious movements from this old toy shop gently guide you into the world of dreams. Perhaps tonight, you'll meet the spirits of old toys looking for a friend to play with in the quiet of the night. Section 1, hey guys, tonight we're stepping away from the whispering pines and ancient lighthouses, trading the salty air for something a little more wooden. You know, the kind of wood that creaks not just with age, but with stories. Tonight, we're heading into a place that should be pure, unadulterated joy, a toy shop. But not just any toy shop. We're talking about Eleanor Vance's old toy shop in a quiet corner of Rhode Island, a place where the departed might just be playing a never-ending game of peekaboo with reality. If you thought dealing with a tangled string of Christmas lights was a nightmare, just wait until you hear about antique dolls that shed actual tears. Yeah, you're probably not surviving this one without at least wanting to check under your bed for a rogue teddy bear. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from in the comments below, maybe what time it is for you. Here in Tra Vinh, Vietnam, the quiet hum of the night is just setting in. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine for a moment the soft clatter of antique marbles against polished wood, the faint, almost imperceptible scent of forgotten candy tucked away in an old jar, mingling with the rich, comforting aroma of aged timber and a hint of dust motes dancing in the languid sunlight. You're pushing open a heavy lacquered door, its brass knob cool beneath your palm, and as it sighs shut behind you with a gentle creak, you find yourself enveloped in a space that feels utterly timeless. This isn't one of those bright, sterile, big-box toy stores that smell faintly of plastic and manufactured optimism. Oh no, This is something else entirely. This is Eleanor Vance's old toy shop, nestled down a quiet cobblestone street in a quaint Rhode Island town, a place where every shadow seems to hold a secret, and every shelf a silent narrative. Rows upon rows of dark wooden shelves, polished smooth by countless hands over decades, groan under the affectionate weight of countless antique playthings. Your eyes immediately adjust to the dimly lit interior, drawn to the myriad of characters staring back at you. Porcelain dolls, their painted smiles eternally fixed, yet somehow cracked by the passage of time, seem to gaze out from their perches, their glass eyes following your every move with an unnerving yet innocent intensity. You might even catch a fleeting glimpse of your own reflection in their shiny, vacant stares, and for a split second you're not sure who's watching whom. And then there are the dusty rocking horses, their faded paint and worn saddles telling tales of countless fantastical adventures now standing patiently, waiting for another child to climb aboard. Regiments of tin soldiers stand eternally at rigid attention, their tiny swords gleaming faintly in the shafts of light, filtering through the aged windows, as if guarding some unseen precious treasure. And then, the intricate clockwork figures, their springs frozen, forever caught mid-motion, as if patiently awaiting an unseen hand to continue their mechanical ballet. A tiny ballerina poised mid-pirouette, a drummer boy with his stick forever raised. Each toy, whether a meticulously crafted wooden animal or a soft, well-loved rag doll with missing buttons for eyes, carries within it a story, a silent echo of childhood that lingers in the very air, almost thick enough to touch. For many decades, this charming, slightly dusty shop was the cherished domain of Eleanor Vance herself. You could picture her, a kind, elderly woman with snow-white hair, often neatly tied back with a simple ribbon, her hands calloused yet gentle from years of tenderly handling delicate figurines. Her warm, crinkling eyes always held a spark of childlike wonder, the kind you only see in people who truly appreciate the small, beautiful details of life. Eleanor wasn't merely a shop owner. She possessed a profound, almost maternal affection for each and every toy, treating them as if they were her own children, little personalities waiting to be understood. You'd often find her gently dusting a porcelain doll's cheek with a soft feather duster, carefully untangling a marionette's impossibly knotted strings, or softly murmuring stories to the silent figures when no customers were present, as if sharing secrets with old friends. She rarely truly sold them, not in the transactional way most shops do. She would say she was finding them new homes, believing that each toy had a unique personality and destiny, deserving a loving owner who would cherish it just as she had. She'd often allow children to play for hours with their favorite pieces, before they made their final choice, watching with quiet delight as joy blossomed in her shop. It was in many ways less a business and more a living museum of happiness. After Eleanor Vance passed away peacefully, not in a sterile hospital room, but in the small, cozy living quarters behind the shop, surrounded by the quiet comfort of her wooden and fabric companions, the shop was inherited by her equally gentle and child-loving niece, Sarah. Sarah, who had grown up listening to her aunt's whimsical stories and watching her tender care for the toys, had promised Eleanor that she would look after the shop as if it were a living, breathing part of their family's soul. It was a promise made with a full heart, little knowing that the spirit of that promise would soon be quite literal. It's a bit like inheriting a vintage car, only to find it insists on driving itself to the nearest ice cream parlor, you know. Historians still debate the precise moment the peculiarities began, but it certainly intensified after Eleanor's passing. However, not long after Eleanor's departure, strange and inexplicable occurrences began to manifest within the shop's quiet confines. Initially, they were so subtle, so easily dismissed, that Sarah often convinced herself it was merely her overactive imagination, or perhaps the inevitable settling and creaking of an old building, worn by a century of whispers and footsteps. But then, the evidence started to mount, piece by curious piece. One crisp autumn evening, as Sarah was locking up the heavy oak door, the clang of the deadbolt echoing softly in the now silent shop, she distinctly heard it. A faint, high-pitched wobble, that unmistakable, almost ethereal hum of a child's spinning top, coming from the main display area, just beyond the row of meticulously arranged tin soldiers. She froze, her hand still on the cold metal of the lock, her breath held tight in her chest. The sound continued for a few seconds, a mesmerizing, almost hypnotic whine, then abruptly ceased, leaving behind an unsettling silence that felt heavier than before. Her logical mind, honed by years of practical living, immediately raced to dismiss it. A loose floorboard? A draft? But curiosity, that persistent little imp, nudged her. When she bravely pushed the door open a crack and peeked back, inside, everything was still. The shop lights were off, casting long, eerie shadows from the shelves of forgotten faces. Yet as her eyes adjusted, she saw it. A small, painted wooden top, which she had meticulously placed on a high, stable shelf earlier that day, now rested perfectly centered on the worn wooden floor, directly in the middle of the main aisle. It was as if it had simply spun itself down there. No obvious way for it to have fallen. No one else was in the shop. Just a lone wooden top, patiently waiting, perhaps for its next turn. Another instance involved the antique doll collection, specifically a group of delicate porcelain figures dressed in Victorian lace. Sarah had meticulously arranged them that morning, dressing them in their tiny bonnets and seating them in a perfect semicircle. The very next morning, as the first rays of dawn filtered through the dusty windows, she found one particular doll, affectionately named Lily by Aunt Eleanor, sitting facing completely away from the others, her dainty bonnet askew. But it was what Sarah saw next that truly sent a shiver, not of fear, but of profound bewilderment, down her spine. A single, tiny, perfectly formed, pearl-like tear, glistening in the soft morning light, traced a path down Lily's flawless porcelain cheek. Sarah carefully wiped it away with her thumb, the small, cold bead of moisture perplexing her. She knew there was no way dust or condensation could form such a distinct, isolated drop. It was as if Lily had been quietly crying throughout the night. A silent, painted sorrow in the heart of the shop. And then there were the sounds after hours, the ones that became almost a nightly symphony for Sarah, who lived in the small apartment directly above the shop. Many nights, she would be startled awake by the soft, rhythmic clatter of what sounded, unmistakably like wooden blocks being deliberately stacked, one atop the other, only to be gently, almost playfully, knocked over with a soft thump, followed by a faint, childish giggle that seemed to echo from the floor below, ethereal and distant. Sometimes, amidst the gentle creaks of the old building, she'd hear the distinct thump-thump of the rocking horse, steady and rhythmic, as if a small rider was enjoying a tireless gallop, long after the shop was dark and empty. When her curiosity, or perhaps a growing sense of acceptance, compelled her to venture downstairs, heart gently thudding, the rocking horse would be utterly still, the wooden blocks neatly in their designated box, leaving only the chilling whisper of a forgotten playdate lingering in the air. These weren't violent disturbances or terrifying manifestations. These were consistent, minor phenomena, suggesting a playful, perhaps even yearning presence. What was most peculiar was that these happenings never instilled genuine fear or a chilling sense of dread. They never felt malicious. On the contrary, they often evoked a quiet sense of wonder, a subtle warmth, almost like a fond remembrance, as if Eleanor's beloved toys had truly come to life, or perhaps Eleanor's own gentle spirit lingered, still, tenderly caring for her children, expressing their desires for continued play. This isn't a haunting of malevolent intent. These are the lingering dreams of the departed, forever bound to the world they once knew and loved, eager to continue spreading joy in their unique, ethereal way. It's almost as if they're trying to tell you, hey, just because we're not technically alive anymore doesn't mean the fun has to stop, right? Join us as we unveil the secrets of this enchanting, slightly haunted toy shop and listen closely for the peculiar echoes of childhood dreams whispering from beyond the veil. Section 2A, as you stand there, contemplating that mysteriously weeping doll or the perfectly positioned spinning top, you can't help but wonder, what forces are at play here? Is it a mischievous breeze playing tricks or something more? To understand the whispers from the wooden wonders, we have to journey back, far beyond the quiet evenings Sarah now experiences, into the vibrant, if somewhat secluded, life of the woman who breathed life into this very space. Eleanor Vance. Eleanor's story isn't one of grand adventures or dramatic revelations. It's a tapestry woven with threads of quiet dedication and an almost sacred love for the inanimate. Born into a time when childhood was slowly being recognized as a distinct phase of life, not just a miniature adulthood, before kids had TikTok and knew what adulting meant, Eleanor was a product of a simpler era. She was born in the late 1800s, a period when toy manufacturing was blossoming from bespoke artisan work into a burgeoning industry, though her family's small mercantile business in Rhode Island focused more on general goods than specialty items. Perhaps it was the stark contrast to the utilitarian nature of their general store that sparked her fascination. While other children might have dreamed of faraway lands or scientific breakthroughs, Eleanor found her enchantment in the meticulously crafted miniature worlds she saw in catalog pages or in the rare imported toys that passed through her family's hands. It's truly fascinating, isn't it? Back then, even a simple wooden block could be an object of immense wonder, unlike today where a toy needs to levitate and serve coffee to impress. Eleanor didn't just like toys, she understood them. She saw the tiny souls within their painted eyes and the endless stories hidden in their silent forms. It's a bit like how some people can tell if a vintage guitar has a soulful tone. Eleanor could feel the heartbeat of a teddy bear. When the opportunity arose in the early 1900s to take over a small, struggling general store on this very cobblestone street, Eleanor didn't just see a business venture. She saw a canvas, a place where she could cultivate her true passion. She, slowly, lovingly, transformed it, little by little, into a haven for playthings. This wasn't a sudden, grand opening, but a gradual, organic evolution, much like how a shy little seedling eventually becomes a towering, majestic oak. She filled it with antique dolls, some passed down through families, others carefully acquired from auctions or estate sales, each with its own history etched into its faded fabric or cracked porcelain. Rocking horses, tin soldiers, intricate, clockwork figures. She amassed them with the devotion of a collector and the tenderness of a guardian. Her philosophy wasn't about making a quick buck, which, let's be honest, would probably get her laughed out of any modern business school. Eleanor truly believed that she wasn't selling toys, she was finding them new homes. Imagine that. It's like a cosmic adoption agency for inanimate objects. She would spend hours talking to prospective parents, the children and their bewildered grown-ups, ensuring that the chosen toy and child were a perfect match. She'd explain the history of a particular doll, or the brave battles a tin soldier had fought, in her imagination, of course, imbuing each object with a personality that to her was utterly real. She often let children play for what felt like an eternity, simply watching their joyous faces, believing that the true purpose of a toy was to bring unadulterated happiness. Some would say it was eccentric, this deep bond she formed with mere objects. But can you really put a price on the joy of a child, or the silent wisdom held within a well-loved toy? Historians still debate the true economic viability of her business model, but one thing is clear: it was a labor of profound love. The community, initially amused by old Miss Vance and her talking dolls, grew to adore her and her peculiar shop. In a world that was rapidly industrializing, moving faster and faster, Eleanor's shop remained a serene, timeless eddy, a place where children could truly be children, away from the increasing pressures of standardized education and the burgeoning consumer culture. It was an anomaly, a delightful throwback, much like finding a fully functional floppy disk drive in the middle of a modern data center. Locals would often send their children to visit Miss Eleanor and her friends, knowing they would be safe, cherished, and entertained for hours. It was more than a shop. It was a community cornerstone, a silent guardian of innocent dreams. It's a strange but true fact that in the early 20th century, many toy manufacturers actually hired toy testers. Children. Of course, to play with prototypes for extended periods, simply to gauge their appeal and durability. Eleanor, in her own unique way, ran a similar, albeit unofficial, program, watching generations of local kids engage with her beloved inventory. So, when Eleanor Vance passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by the silent witnesses of her life's devotion, the dolls, the rocking horses, the clockwork figures, it wasn't just a shop owner who was gone. It was a guardian, a nurturer of playful spirits. Her profound connection to every single object within those walls, her belief in their inherent life force, and her unwavering dedication to their purpose of bringing joy created an energy, a resonance, that simply refused to dissipate. It's as if her love for these wooden wonders, this porcelain parade, was so immense, so all-encompassing, that it left an indelible imprint on the very fabric of the building and its contents. Her presence, her essence, became intertwined with the shop itself. The poltergeist activity that Sarah now observes, the spinning top, the crying doll, the phantom playtime, isn't random. It's Eleanor, still tending her shop, still finding joy in the play, still ensuring that her beloved toys are watched over, even from beyond the veil. It's her way of saying, just because I'm not physically there doesn't mean the party has to end. A truly endearing thought, isn't it? Action 3 so. We've established that Eleanor Vance poured her heart and soul into every wooden soldier and porcelain doll, essentially creating a living, breathing testament to her love for play. But what exactly does that look like when it translates into spectral activity? It's not about things going bump in the night in a terrifying horror movie kind of way. Think less jump scares, more like a very quiet, very persistent, and slightly eerie game of hide-and-seek with reality. Welcome back to the old toy shop, where the echoes of Eleanor's enduring passion manifest in delightfully peculiar ways. You might feel it first, a subtle shift in the air, a faint energy that prickles the back of your neck, not with fear, but with a curious anticipation. Many who have spent extended time within the shop's cozy, cluttered confines describe an almost uncanny sensation of being watched with amusement. It's not the chilling, predatory gaze you might associate with more malevolent entities. No, this feels more like a kindly, unseen elder observing your every move, perhaps with a knowing twinkle in their invisible eye. It's the feeling you get when you're doing something silly, and you just know someone's secretly enjoying it. Take, for instance, the porcelain dolls. You know, the ones with the unsettlingly pristine faces and glass eyes that seem to hold an entire, unblinking universe. Visitors often report a curious shifting of glances among them. Their meticulously painted eyes, once fixed in a vacant stare, seem to follow movement, their delicate painted smiles appearing to subtly widen, or narrow as if in quiet amusement, or perhaps a shared unspoken joke. One day, a local historian, known for his rigorous skepticism, was meticulously examining a rare German doll from the early 1900s, murmuring about its intricate jointing. He swore later that the doll's head slowly, almost imperceptibly, turned. To face him directly, its painted smile seeming to deepen into a wry grin, as if acknowledging his scholarly pursuits with a silent, teasing understanding. He quickly blamed a draft, but the shop had no drafts. Adding to this eerie charm is the phenomenon of the phantom playtime. On countless quiet afternoons, when only the dust motes danced in the sunbeams, or more frequently after closing, Sarah, Eleanor's thoughtful niece, has described hearing the distinct sounds of toys being played with. It's not a cacophony, but a precise, almost delicate symphony of unseen activity. You might hear the soft, rhythmic thump-thump of a rocking horse, its unseen rider gently swaying back and forth, the sound echoing lightly off the wooden floor. Then, perhaps, the delicate clatter of wooden blocks being stacked one atop the other, building invisible towers, followed by the soft, almost imperceptible clink as they are gently toppled, or the rhythmic roll of miniature trains, their tiny wheels seemingly gliding across non-existent tracks. Sarah once swore she heard a full, albeit silent, train journey from the back of the shop to the front counter, complete with faint whistles, and the steady chug-chug of the engine, though no train had visibly moved. These sounds are never accompanied by any visible movement of the objects themselves, nor is there any sign of disturbance once the sounds cease. It's as if a silent, unseen playdate is unfolding just beyond the veil, a ghostly echo of childhood. Joy that persists even when the lights are out and the door is locked. You know, like when your kids mysteriously leave a trail of crumbs from the kitchen to their bedroom, but swear they never touched anything. Perhaps the most startling, yet never frightening manifestation is the spontaneous assemblage. On several occasions, Sarah has arrived in the morning to open the shop, only to find small groups of toys arranged in peculiar, often whimsical tableaux. These aren't random displacements, like a book falling off a shelf. Oh no, these are deliberate, imaginative arrangements showcasing a playful, intelligent force at work. Imagine walking in to find a collection of stern-faced tin soldiers who were perfectly aligned on a shelf the night before, now meticulously gathered around a small porcelain doll, as if listening intently to a story she was telling. Or a fleet of miniature wooden sailboats, which were neatly displayed in a glass cabinet, now lined up perfectly on the main counter, their tiny sails unfurled, as if preparing for a grand voyage across a spectral sea, perhaps to find some forgotten candy. Treasure. One morning, Sarah discovered all the alphabet blocks, which she usually kept in a messy bin, neatly arranged on the floor to spell out play. And another time, even more curiously, they spelled out, hello. It's as if the departed still dream of games, and their dreams manifest in subtle, physical ways, creating a miniature theatrical scene for the living to discover. It's like finding your laundry perfectly folded and put away by unseen hands. Only instead of socks, it's antique puppets and miniature teacups. These unique manifestations point to a poltergeist that is less about chaos and more about creativity and lingering affection. Unlike the more aggressive poltergeists recorded in paranormal history, like the infamous Bell Witch haunting in the early 19th century that involved physical assaults and terrifying voices, the entity, or entities, in Eleanor's shop seemed to prefer a gentle, almost artistic expression. Historians still debate the true psychological impact of poltergeist phenomena, but here, in this Rhode Island toy shop, it feels overwhelmingly benign. It's a strange but true fact that during the Victorian era, many toys were designed not just for play, but also for education, subtly reinforcing moral lessons, a concept Eleanor wholeheartedly embraced. This playful, gentle haunting, therefore, seems to be a continuation of her life's work. The old toy shop of Eleanor Vance stands not just as a historical landmark or a charming antique store, it's actively cared for and joyfully animated by the unseen hands of those who once loved its wooden wonders. It's a place where the echo of a forgotten giggle can still bring a smile to your face, and where the line between what is seen and unseen becomes wonderfully, perhaps unsettlingly, blurred. And as the tiny unseen hands continue their gentle play. You can't help but wonder what story they're trying to tell, what game they're inviting you to join. Section 4SO, you've heard about the playful tilts of doll heads, the phantom rhythm of the rocking horse, and those oddly deliberate arrangements of tin soldiers. These aren't just isolated incidents, a series of strange happenings in a dusty, old shop. Oh no. What makes the old toy shop of Eleanor Vance truly unique is not just what happens, but how people react to it. You might expect screams, hurried exits, maybe a frantic call to a priest, or a very confused Ghostbusters team. But that's not how it works here. The residents of this charming little Rhode Island town, and even the occasional unsuspecting tourist, tend to react with something far more intriguing, a quiet wonder, a gentle amusement, and often a profound sense of comfort. Imagine you're a long-time customer, perhaps a retired school teacher who used to visit Eleanor for tea and stories. You've heard the whispers, seen the odd occurrences over the years, but instead of fear, you find yourself feeling a peculiar warmth. It's the sensation of being watched with amusement, not in a creepy, I'm being stalked kind of way, but like a beloved grandparent quietly enjoying your antics from the corner of a room. It's subtle, a prickle on the back of your neck that morphs into a smile on your face. A delivery person, a gruff, no-nonsense man named Frank, once swore he set a box of packing peanuts down on the counter, turned to retrieve his pen, and when he looked back, a small antique jack-in-the-box was sitting on top of the box, its lid slightly ajar, grinning mischievously. Frank, who usually just grumbled about the weather, just shook his head, a wry smile playing on his lips. "That Eleanor," he muttered, "still got her tricks, even from the other side." It's a testament to the character of Eleanor herself that her lingering presence, even in its spectral form, continues to bring quiet delight rather than dread. Historians still debate whether human perception of the paranormal is primarily shaped by cultural narratives or innate psychological predispositions. But in this shop, joy seems to be the dominant narrative. Perhaps the most heartwarming and, frankly, a little spooky aspect of this gentle haunting is what we call reunion play. You see, the poltergeist activity here isn't just random. It seems to respond to nostalgia, to the very fabric of memory. Visitors, particularly those who grew up in the area, often report a powerful sense of déjà vu or a sudden, vivid recall of their own childhood toys and games as they browse the shop. It's almost as if the shop itself is a conduit, allowing the spirits to tap into the universal wellspring of nostalgia. For instance, Mrs. Henderson, a sweet elderly lady who visits the shop every Tuesday, reminisced aloud one afternoon about her favorite childhood doll, a specific bisque doll with auburn curls. She spoke of its soft, worn dress and the way its eyes would close when laid down. As she spoke, her voice thick with emotion, a doll eerily similar to her description, which had been sitting motionless on a high shelf, slowly, almost imperceptibly, tilted its head towards her, and its glass eyes, which had been wide open, clicked gently shut, as if responding to her heartfelt memory. Mrs. Henderson gasped, tears welling in her eyes, not from fear but from a profound sense of connection, as if her long-lost childhood friend was acknowledging her. It's like finding that one specific song from your awkward middle school years on a streaming service, completely unexpected and somehow perfectly resonant. These are moments of uncanny connection, suggesting that the spirits within the shop are responding to the nostalgia and joy of their visitors, eager to re-engage in the games of old, bridging the gap between their world and ours. This unique atmosphere, where the unexplained brings comfort rather than terror, fosters a remarkable sense of comfort and acceptance among those who witness these events. Unlike the violent, terrifying hauntings often depicted in films, where poltergeists throw furniture around like a teenager having a tantrum, no one leaves Eleanor's shop feeling terrified. Instead, they often report a feeling of warmth, even a quiet joy, as if they've been part of something truly special and benevolent. Sarah, Eleanor's niece, has moved beyond mere tolerance. She has embraced these playful rearrangements and the faint giggles she hears from downstairs. She views them as Eleanor's continuing presence, a sign that her aunt is still overseeing her beloved collection. Sarah often leaves out small, broken toys, perhaps a doll with a missing limb or a tin soldier with a dented helmet, on her workbench, before closing. And to her quiet delight, on occasion, she finds them subtly mended overnight. A tiny stitch repaired on a plush animal, a bent piece of tin straightened, as if the spirits are still caring for their collection, continuing Eleanor's meticulous work. It's like leaving a messy kitchen and waking up to find it sparkling clean, only instead of a neat freak roommate, it's a friendly ghost. It's a strange but true fact that the concept of therapeutic play using toys to help children process emotions dates back to the early 20th century. Perhaps these spectral mending sessions are a form of therapeutic play for the departed as well. The occurrences paint a picture of a poltergeist not driven by anger or unresolved trauma, but by a pure, almost childlike desire to play and to express, enduring affection. The old toy shop of Eleanor Vance is a testament to the idea that some dreams of the departed are simply an extension of the joy and love they brought to life. And as you wander through its aisles, feeling that gentle amusement watching over you, you might just find your own childhood memories stirring, awakened by the playful spirit of a shop that truly refuses to let go of its past. It leaves you wondering in a good way what unseen hand might be just around the corner, ready to nudge a small toy your way. Section 5. So, you've experienced the comforting warmth, the nostalgic pangs, and the gentle nudges that make Eleanor Vance's toy shop less a house of horrors and more a whimsical, slightly unsettling playground for the departed. But if these benevolent spirits, presumably Eleanor's, and perhaps those of the children who loved these toys, are orchestrating such playful phenomena, one can't help but wonder, are certain objects more tuned in than others? Is there a particular toy, a specific doll, or a creaky old rocking horse that acts as a kind of spiritual Wi-Fi router, connecting the seen with the unseen? It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? Almost like a toy selection process for the afterlife, where some gadgets just have better reception. In the world of the paranormal, there's a long-held belief that certain objects can act as focal points or anchors for spiritual energy. Think of it like a lightning rod, but for lingering, emotions and playful intentions. In Eleanor's shop, this theory seems to hold a surprising amount of weight, particularly when you observe the consistent activity surrounding specific types of toys. It's not just any randomly chosen block. It's often the ones that have been loved the most, handled by countless tiny hands, imbued with layers of joy and childhood dreams. Let's talk about the rocking horse. You know, the one that sometimes thumps in the dead of night when no one's around. It's a common fixture in most toy shops, but this one, a beautifully carved wooden horse with faded paint and a perpetually patient expression, seems to be a particular favorite. Sarah has recounted countless instances where the horse would begin its gentle, rhythmic rocking, not with a violent lurch, but with a slow, deliberate swing, almost beckoning. Sometimes she'd notice it would only start to rock when a small child, a customer perhaps, would wander close, reaching out a hesitant hand. It's as if the horse, filled with the echoes of countless happy rides, craved the presence of a child once more, offering an unseen ride from beyond the grave. One curious afternoon, a young boy, no older than 5, sat quietly on the floor, near the rocking horse, drawing in his sketchbook. Suddenly, the horse began to rock, gently at first, then gaining a steady momentum. The boy looked up, his eyes wide, but not with fear. He simply smiled, continuing to draw, occasionally glancing at his silently moving companion. It was a perfect, unspoken playdate between two worlds, the kind that might make you wonder if your old childhood bicycle secretly wants to go for a spin without you. And then there's Lily, the porcelain doll. Remember her? The one with the disconcertingly perfect single tear. The one that sometimes turns her head or closes her eyes in response to Mrs. Henderson's heartfelt recollections. Lily isn't just an ordinary doll. She seems to be a direct conduit, perhaps for Eleanor herself, or for a child who particularly loved her. Her movements are subtle, almost imperceptible to the casual observer, but consistently deliberate. Sarah once witnessed Lily's tiny porcelain hand, which had been resting demurely on her lace dress, slowly, painstakingly, lift and point towards a dusty, forgotten corner of the shop. When Sarah investigated, she found a small antique music box, long believed broken, now playing a faint, tinkling melody. It's as if Lily was not just crying, but communicating, guiding Sarah to a piece of the past that held a shared joy. Historians still debate the psychological significance of dolls in childhood development across different cultures, but few would argue against their profound emotional impact. The clockwork figures, too, play a fascinating role in this spectral orchestra. Unlike the rocking horse or the dolls, whose movements are more fluid and organic, the clockwork toys are mechanical by nature. Yet within Eleanor's shop, they seem to possess an uncanny ability to activate without being wound. A tiny ballerina might begin her graceful pirouette, her little skirt flaring without any visible touch. A miniature drummer boy might tap his drum with a phantom rhythm, his tiny sticks moving with unseen energy. These movements are precise, almost ghostly echoes of their intended function. It's as if the very heartbeat of the shop, the ticking and whirring of playful mechanisms, continues, powered not by springs, but by a persistent, unseen force. This phenomenon is a bit like finding your old flip phone suddenly having full battery and an internet connection. Baffling, yet strangely charming. It's a strange but true fact that in the 18th century, some clockwork automatons were so sophisticated they could write letters or play musical instruments, leading some to believe they were truly imbued with life. Perhaps in Eleanor's shop, some of them actually are. These repeated phenomena, focused on specific objects, strongly suggest the idea of an emotional imprint. It's a theory that posits intense emotions, especially those experienced repeatedly or with great fervor, can leave a lasting energetic residue on objects or locations. Eleanor's profound love for her toys, the boundless joy of the children who played with them, the quiet solace found within those walls, all these powerful sentiments could have literally saturated the very fabric of the shop and its contents. The toys, having been the recipients and vehicles of so much happiness, became perfect vessels for this lingering energy. It's a concept that suggests our emotions aren't just ephemeral feelings, but can, in a unique way, become part of the world around us. So, while you might think of it as a traditional haunting, you might also consider it a physical manifestation of pure, unadulterated happiness that simply refused to fade. The old toy shop of Eleanor Vance isn't just a place where ghosts roam. It's a living archive of joy where the past continues to play, using its cherished toys as instruments for its enduring symphony. And as you watch these inanimate objects subtly shift and stir, you begin to understand that sometimes the most profound connections are found in the most unexpected and delightfully haunted places. Section 6SO. You've seen how Eleanor's unwavering love for her wooden wonders seems to animate them, making certain toys into curious conduits for lingering emotions. It's almost like they're little spiritual Wi-Fi hotspots, buzzing with the echoes of joy. But what if there's more to it than just Eleanor's lingering affection? What if nestled within the very bones of this charming old shop lies a deeper, perhaps a little more poignant history? Sometimes, the most innocent places hold the most fragile, heartbreaking secrets. It's like finding out your favorite childhood cartoon character had a surprisingly dark backstory. It just adds layers, doesn't it? You see, the old toy shop of Eleanor Vance, like many venerable establishments that have stood for generations, holds more than just a collection of playthings. It holds the echoes of countless lives, some filled with unbridled glee, others perhaps touched by a whisper of sorrow. In the early 1900s, around the time Eleanor was just beginning to transform the general store into her toy haven, a quiet tragedy unfolded on this very street. A story almost lost to time, known only through old local newspaper clippings and hushed whispers passed down through generations. Back then, childhood was a delicate balance. While toys were gaining popularity, life was still incredibly fragile, especially for the very young. It was a time when simple illnesses could turn severe, much like how a tiny scratch on your phone screen used to escalate into a full-blown existential crisis for your wallet. The year was 1912. While the world was gripped by the sinking of the Titanic, a far smaller personal heartbreak unfolded right here. A young girl named Lily, no older than 7, lived just a few houses down from what would soon become Eleanor's toy shop. Lily was, by all accounts, a vibrant, imaginative child, obsessed with a particular small, meticulously crafted wooden doll displayed in the shop's window. This doll wasn't just any doll. It was a unique piece, hand-carved in Germany, with intricate, painted eyes and a tiny, delicately braided silk hair. Lily would press her nose against the glass every single day, her breath fogging the pane, her small finger tracing the outline of the doll she affectionately called Pip. She would spend hours concocting elaborate stories about Pip's adventures, dreaming of the day she would save enough pennies from her meager allowance to make Pip hers. Her parents, humble laborers, promised her that when her 8th birthday came, and if she was a very good girl, Pip would be her special gift. It was a common historical event in that era. Children often saved for months, sometimes years, for a single cherished toy, unlike today where a new gadget appears every other Tuesday. Tragically, just weeks before her birthday, Lily fell ill with a sudden virulent fever that swept through the small town. Despite the best efforts of the local doctor, she passed away quietly in her sleep, never having held her beloved Pip. The doll, still in the shop window, became a silent, poignant monument to a dream unfulfilled. Eleanor, hearing of the child's passing, was deeply moved. She carefully removed the doll from the window display, deciding that such a special toy, imbued with such longing, deserved to be kept safe, perhaps even to quietly mourn its intended owner. She placed Pip on a secluded high shelf in the back of the shop, away from prying eyes, out of respect for Lily's memory. It's a strange but true fact that in some European cultures of that period, dolls were sometimes buried with children who died young to provide comfort in the afterlife. Eleanor's gesture, though different, carried a similar sentiment. This small, heartbreaking incident, this unfulfilled childhood dream, became a part of the shop's very essence. You see, Eleanor's already profound love for her toys, her belief in their almost living nature, was deepened by Lily's story. She saw Pip not just as a doll, but as a silent witness to a child's pure, unadulterated longing. This event, far from being a violent trauma, added a layer of profound, gentle melancholy to the shop's energetic signature. It's a quiet ache, a soft yearning that complements Eleanor's playful spirit. This is where the idea of the emotional imprint truly deepens. Not just the joy of play, but the powerful, concentrated emotion of unfulfilled desire, of innocent. Dreams cut short could have also imbued the shop and perhaps specific toys. Pip, that tiny German doll, might just be another focal point, a receiver for the lingering energies of a child's deepest wish. So when you see a doll in the shop that seems to cry or turn its head with a wistful air, or feel a sudden, inexplicable sense of longing for a toy you never had, perhaps it's not just Eleanor's playful spirit. Perhaps it's also the echo of little Lily, still dreaming of playing with her beloved Pip, a dream that continues to manifest in the quiet, dusty aisles of the old toy shop. Historians still debate the extent to which individual tragedies contribute to localized supernatural phenomena, but in a place so steeped in childhood memories, it's hard to ignore the quiet sorrow that sometimes permeates the playful energy. It's a subtle reminder that even in a place of joy, there can be a delicate undercurrent of poignant, almost beautiful sadness, like finding a perfectly preserved, withered flower pressed between the pages of a beloved storybook. Section 7. You've now felt the quiet hum of Eleanor's enduring affection for her wooden wonders, and glimpsed the poignant, almost heartbreaking echo of little Lily's unfulfilled dream. It leaves you with a question, doesn't it? If the toy shop is indeed host to these peculiar phenomena, what exactly are we dealing with? Is it Eleanor Vance herself, still meticulously caring for her beloved collection from beyond the veil, perhaps just a little more hands-off than she used to be? Or is it the lingering spirit of Lily, forever drawn to the toy she longed for? Or perhaps, and this is where it gets really interesting, is it a beautiful melancholic dance between both, a tapestry woven from the threads of love and loss? In the study of the paranormal, there are generally two broad categories for hauntings: residual hauntings and intelligent hauntings. A residual haunting is like a recording, an energetic imprint left by strong emotions or repeated actions, replaying itself without any conscious interaction. Think of it like a glitch in the cosmic matrix, a scene from the past playing on a loop. It's a bit like when you get a song stuck in your head, and it just plays on repeat, regardless of what you're trying to do. An intelligent haunting, on the other hand, suggests a conscious entity capable of reacting, interacting, and even communicating. In Eleanor's shop, the evidence points to a fascinating blend, perhaps leaning more towards the intelligent. The way Lily's doll responds to Mrs. Henderson's memories, the alphabet block spelling out hello, or the way the rocking horse seems to beckon a child, these aren't random replays. They suggest a level of awareness, a desire to engage. It makes you wonder if our dearly departed are simply trying to get our attention, like a ghost trying to comment on your latest Instagram post. So, what exactly is the poltergeist trying to communicate? It's clearly not trying to scare anyone, which rules out your typical horror movie antagonist. Instead, its actions seem to carry a message of comfort, a desire for remembrance, and perhaps even a gentle continuation of play. The subtle mending of broken toys that Sarah sometimes finds in the morning, that speaks of care, of Eleanor's continuing fastidiousness and love for her children. The specific arrangement of toys around Pip, as if in a silent vigil or a storytelling circle, that feels like a poignant acknowledgement of Lily's unfulfilled longing, a way for the spectral inhabitants to finally play with her beloved doll. It's almost as if they're saying, "We remember, we're still here, and the game isn't over." This aligns with a strange but true fact that in the Victorian era, as spiritualism gained traction, many believed that the spirits of the deceased could communicate through physical manifestations, sometimes using objects they cherished in life. Historians still debate the true motivations behind spiritualist movements of the time, but the yearning for connection with the departed was undeniably powerful. The symbolism of toys themselves also plays a profound role here. Toys are inherently objects of innocence, joy, and the boundless imagination of childhood. They are vessels for dreams, often invested with deep personal meaning by the children who love them. When these objects become focal points for spiritual activity, it's not just a material object moving, it's a piece of someone's cherished past, brought to life in an uncanny way. Think about your own favorite childhood toy. If it suddenly moved, or seem to respond to your presence. Wouldn't that feel more like a reunion than a scare? It's not a shadowy figure lurking in a hallway. It's a tiny wooden train chugging along without power, a silent echo of laughter. This type of haunting taps into a universal human experience, the nostalgia for lost innocence, the yearning for a connection to our past, and the hope that perhaps the joy we once experienced truly can last forever. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a common historical event that deeply impacted family life was the devastating impact of childhood diseases like diphtheria, scarlet fever, and influenza. High infant and child mortality rates meant that loss was a very real, very frequent part of life for many families. This led to various rituals of mourning, sometimes involving the deceased child's favorite toys, and a profound cultural shift towards spiritualism as people sought ways to connect with their lost loved ones. The toy shop, with its delicate balance of childlike joy and lingering sorrow, could be seen as a microcosm of this era, a place where the cultural anxieties and spiritual longings of the time manifest in a uniquely poignant way. You know, like how we all collectively decided to adopt pets during the lockdown, finding comfort in small, furry companions when the world felt overwhelming. The ghosts of Eleanor's toy shop don't seem interested in causing chaos or fear. Instead, they are engaged in a perpetual act of storytelling, a silent narrative woven with the threads of playtime, memory, and a deep, abiding connection to the physical objects that held so much meaning. It's a testament to the idea that love, especially the pure, unadulterated love for something as innocent as a toy, can transcend the boundaries of life and death, leaving behind a gentle, persistent hum of affection. And as you drift further into the story, you can almost hear the soft, rustling pages of a forgotten storybook turning all on their own, inviting you to listen to a tale that's far from over. Section 8, we've explored the poignant narratives woven into the old toy shop, the echoes of love and loss that seem to animate its wooden wonders. But what if we step away from the whispers of the past and look at this from a different angle? What if instead of ghosts and lingering spirits, we consider the possibility of more earthly explanations? Could the subtle movements, the phantom sounds, and that unsettling feeling of being watched have a scientific basis? It's like trying to figure out if that weird noise in your house is a ghost or just your ancient plumbing finally staging a rebellion. While the idea of a gentle poltergeist is certainly enchanting, the human mind is wired to seek patterns, to find explanations for the unexplained. So, let's play devil's advocate for a moment and consider some of the more grounded theories. One possibility is static electricity. The shop, filled with aged wood, fabric, and dust, could be a perfect breeding ground for static buildup. A sudden discharge could cause a light object, like a small wooden top, to move unexpectedly. It's not a ghost spinning it. It's just physics having a little fun. You know, like when you shuffle across a carpet in socks and then shock your unsuspecting friend. It's not magic. It's just a tiny, annoying jolt. Another theory involves infrasound, sounds below the range of human hearing. These low-frequency vibrations can be caused by various sources, from distant traffic to subtle shifts in the building's foundation. While we can't hear them, infrasound can affect our bodies, creating feelings of unease, even a sense of being watched. Could the subtle thump-thump of the rocking horse, or the faint, almost imperceptible sounds of toys being played with, be caused by infrasound, subtly influencing our perception? It's not a spectral playdate, it's just your ears playing tricks on you. It's like when you think you hear your phone ringing, but it's just the hum of the refrigerator. And then there's the possibility of electromagnetic fields. The Earth itself has a natural magnetic field and electrical wiring. Even old wiring in an antique shop can create its own electromagnetic fields. Some researchers believe that strong electromagnetic fields can affect the human brain, causing hallucinations or unusual sensations. Could the feeling of being watched, the subtle shifts in perception, be caused by the shop's unique electromagnetic environment? It's not a ghostly gaze. It's just your brain getting a little scrambled. It's a bit like when you stare at a screen for too long and start seeing things that aren't there. However, even if we consider these scientific possibilities, they don't fully explain all the phenomena in Eleanor's shop. A static discharge might move a top, but could it explain the deliberate arrangement of toys into a tableau? Infrasound might cause a feeling of unease, but could it make a doll cry a single, perfect tear? Electromagnetic fields might influence perception, but could they make alphabet blocks spell out hello? It's a strange but true fact that some researchers have attempted to recreate poltergeist phenomena in controlled laboratory settings, using static electricity, infrasound, and electromagnetic fields. While they have been able to produce some minor effects, like moving small objects, they have never been able to replicate the complex, seemingly intelligent activity reported in places like Eleanor's shop. Historians still debate the role of confirmation bias in paranormal investigations, where people are more likely to notice and remember events that support their pre-existing beliefs. The old toy shop of Eleanor Vance exists in that fascinating liminal space between the known and the unknown. While science can offer potential explanations for some aspects of the haunting, it can't fully account for the unique blend of playful energy, poignant sorrow, and seemingly intelligent interaction that permeates the shop. Perhaps in this case, the truth lies not in choosing one explanation over the other, but in accepting that both can coexist. The shop might be influenced by static electricity, infrasound, and electromagnetic fields, but it also might be a place where the echoes of love and loss have found a way to express themselves in a way that science can't fully quantify. And as you consider these competing explanations, you might find yourself drawn back to the idea of Eleanor, still tending her shop, still finding joy in the play, her gentle spirit intertwined with the very fabric of the building and its beloved toys. Even if there's a scientific basis for some of the phenomena, the heart of the haunting, the reason it feels so comforting rather than terrifying, remains rooted in her enduring affection. And as you drift further into the night, you might find yourself wondering if the next time you visit a dusty old antique shop, you might just be surprised by what or who you find there. Section 9 So, we've dabbled in the realm of scientific explanations, poking at the possibility that static, infrasound, or electromagnetic fields might be playing tricks on our senses in Eleanor Vance's toy shop. But as much as our logical minds crave neat little boxes for the unexplained sometimes, reality just refuses to fit. And when it comes to the old toy shop, there's a phenomenon that completely sidesteps the realm of wires and wavelengths and plunges headfirst into the ethereal, the dream weave. It's almost as if the shop itself is a giant antique dream catcher, pulling you into its stories, even when you're tucked snug in your own bed. You see, beyond the physical manifestations of rocking horses and weeping dolls, many visitors, and particularly Sarah, Eleanor's niece, have reported experiencing remarkably vivid and often interconnected dreams after spending time in the shop. These aren't just your run-of-the-mill, oops, I ate too much pizza dreams. Oh no. These are detailed, immersive experiences that often feature the very toys you've seen, or even Eleanor herself, sometimes as a kindly guide, sometimes as a mischievous child. It's like the shop's giving you a nightly, personalized, slightly spooky bedtime story, complete with immersive VR. Historians still debate the true nature of collective unconsciousness and shared dreamscapes, but in this Rhode Island town, the evidence feels quite tangible. Sarah, living above the shop, is predictably the most frequent participant in this nocturnal narrative. She describes her dreams as having an almost tangible quality, as if she's not just dreaming about the shop, but actively within it, walking its aisles at night. One particularly poignant dream involved her finding little Lily, the porcelain doll, not crying this time, but perched atop the rocking horse, her tiny porcelain hands firmly gripping its worn wooden mane. In the dream, Lily turned her head, not with a mournful tear, but with a wide, genuine smile, and whispered, "Eleanor says to tell you she's having so much fun." Sarah woke up with a gasp, a profound sense of peace washing over her, along with the lingering scent of old rosewater and aged wood, as if she'd truly been there. It's a strange but true fact that some indigenous cultures believe dreams are a parallel reality where spirits can communicate, offering guidance or messages. Perhaps the old toy shop is simply a thin spot between these realities. But it's not just Sarah. Customers, especially those who've developed a deep affection for the shop, have reported similar experiences. A young art student, fascinated by the antique clockwork figures, once described a dream where all the shop's clockwork toys sprang to life, performing an elaborate silent ballet across the shop floor, their gears whirring with an unseen, ethereal energy. He woke up feeling exhilarated, compelled to sketch the dance he'd witnessed, convinced it was more than just a dream. It's almost as if the shop's resident spirits are orchestrating a nightly show, inviting you to be their private audience and maybe even a co-star. You know, like when your favorite band drops a surprise album and you feel like you're part of something exclusive. This concept of collective dreaming or a shared dream experience around the shop is truly fascinating. It suggests that the lingering energies, Eleanor's maternal love, Lily's unfulfilled longing, the countless joys of childhood, are not just manifesting physically, but are also subtly influencing the very dreamscape of those who enter their domain. It's as if the shop acts as a nexus, weaving the subconscious minds of its visitors into a tapestry of shared nostalgia and spectral interaction. Perhaps the physical manifestations we discussed earlier, like the spinning top or the rearranged blocks, are just the daytime echoes of these deeper, more elaborate nocturnal activities. It's a two-way street where the spirits influence our dreams, and perhaps our dreams, full of our own memories and affections, in turn, energize their presence. Consider a common historical event, the rise of Freudian dream analysis in the early 20th century. This era saw a fascination with the subconscious and the idea that dreams held hidden meanings, often reflecting our deepest desires and anxieties. While Freud probably wouldn't have blamed a dream about a rocking horse on a ghost, his work certainly opened the door to the idea that our nocturnal journeys are far more than random brain activity. The dream weave of Eleanor's shop takes this a step further, suggesting that external, non-physical entities can subtly influence these internal landscapes, creating shared narratives. It's like your brain getting an unexpected software update from an unknown source, but instead of fixing bugs, it's installing ghost stories. The very fabric of the shop, steeped in history and emotion, seems to hold the capacity to bridge the waking world with the dreaming world, creating an ongoing, intimate dialogue between the living and the departed. And as you prepare to close your eyes tonight, knowing that somewhere out there, in a quaint Rhode Island town, the dreams of the departed are still playing out amongst antique toys, you might just find yourself wishing for an invitation to their peculiar spectral slumber party. Who knows what stories await you in the old toy shop's unique dream weave? Section 10, you've glimpsed the dream weave, that ethereal tapestry where the toy shop subtly weaves its way into your subconscious, inviting you to nocturnal playdates with the departed. But for Sarah, Eleanor Vance's kind-hearted niece, this isn't just a fleeting dream or an intriguing concept. It's her everyday reality. When she inherited the shop, she also inherited its spectral residents, and her journey from bewilderment to a profound sense of peace is perhaps the most touching part of this peculiar story. It's a bit like adopting a cat and discovering it also comes with a tiny, invisible, very quiet house elf. You might be surprised at first, but eventually you just learn to live with the odd little disappearances of Milk. Initially, Sarah reacted, exactly as you or I might. There was that first moment with the spinning top, the inexplicable tear on Lily's porcelain cheek, and the late-night phantom giggles and creaks. Her logical mind, though open, strained to find rational explanations. She'd check for drafts, examine hinges, even briefly consider if she needed more sleep. It's a common historical event that throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, as scientific thought gained prominence, people often tried to rationalize phenomena previously attributed to the supernatural, seeking empirical explanations for unexplained events. Sarah was no different, attempting to apply a modern lens to a decidedly unmodern situation. But as the occurrences continued, consistent and undeniably deliberate, her skepticism slowly, beautifully gave way to a quiet, almost tender acceptance. Now, the poltergeist activity isn't something Sarah fears or even tries to dismiss. It has seamlessly woven itself into the fabric of her daily life, becoming as much a part of the shop's charm as the scent of aged wood or the gentle chime of the antique bell above the door. She often finds herself talking to the toys, or rather, to the unseen presence that animates them. "All right, Eleanor," she might murmur, as she notices a tin soldier has been moved to a new strategic position. "What grand campaign are we planning? Today?" She might even leave a small, comfortable cushion on the rocking horse at night, just in case someone wants to ride. It's her personal, silent acknowledgement of the life beyond the veil. It's not just a business. It's a shared space. A partnership, almost. Historians still debate the psychological benefits of anthropomorphizing inanimate objects, but for Sarah, it's clearly a source of comfort. This isn't about being crazy. It's about finding meaning and connection in the most unexpected places. Sarah now sees herself not just as the shop owner, but as a shared custodian with Eleanor's spirit. She believes her aunt is still very much present, still watching over her beloved toys, still ensuring they find the right homes. There's a peculiar peace in knowing she's not alone in her work, that the legacy Eleanor built is being actively tended by both the living and the departed. It's like co-owning a quirky little cafe with a silent partner who occasionally rearranges the pastries after closing, but always for the better. It's a strange but true fact that in some cultures, maintaining a deceased loved one's belongings or continuing their work is seen as a way to keep their spirit active and honored in the world. Sarah is embodying this ancient tradition, perhaps without even fully realizing it. The very nature of this haunting, its gentle, benevolent character, has been instrumental in Sarah's acceptance. Unlike the terrifying poltergeists of folklore that cause havoc and instill terror, these manifestations consistently bring a sense of warmth, playfulness, and even solace. There are no cold spots that make your teeth chatter, no angry whispers chilling you to the bone. Instead, it's the quiet thump-thump of a rocking horse, the gentle clatter of unseen blocks, or the subtle turning of a doll's head. These are not signs of malevolent spirits seeking revenge, but rather of a loving presence, perhaps ensuring that childhood joy continues, even in the afterlife. It reinforces the idea that some forms of haunting are less about fear and more about enduring connection, a kind of eternal, ethereal embrace. In an era when societal views on grief and mourning were slowly evolving, moving away from rigid Victorian rituals towards more personalized expressions of remembrance, Sarah's quiet acceptance stands as a testament to the power of individual belief. While her grandmother's generation might have worn black for years, Sarah found her way to honor Eleanor's memory through a living, breathing, subtly haunted tribute. It's a beautifully personal interpretation of legacy, proving that love truly transcends the boundaries of time and physical presence. The old toy shop of Eleanor Vance is no longer just a place of commerce for Sarah. It's a sanctuary where the living and the departed peacefully coexist, united by their shared affection for wooden wonders and the timeless magic of play. And as you imagine Sarah calmly tidying shelves, perhaps humming a little tune, while an unseen doll subtly adjusts its bonnet, you can't help but feel a profound sense of peace, knowing that some goodbyes are never truly final. Section 11. So, Sarah has embraced her unique co-custodianship of Eleanor's toy shop, finding comfort in the gentle, playful energies that animate its wooden wonders. But what about the rest of the world? In a charming, close-knit Rhode Island, town news, especially the slightly unusual kind, tends to travel faster than a rogue spinning top on a polished floor. How has the community, the very people who knew Eleanor and now frequent Sarah's shop, reacted to its increasingly peculiar reputation? Well, you might be surprised. It's not quite the pitchforks and torches scenario you'd expect from a haunted location in a horror movie, is it? More like a collective amused nod and a quiet shared understanding. The townspeople, many of whom remember Eleanor Vance herself, possess a unique blend of practicality and open-mindedness. They've lived alongside the shop for decades, seen it transform, and know Sarah to be a sensible, kind woman. So, when tales of subtly shifted dolls or the faint sounds of phantom playtime began to circulate, there wasn't a sudden panic. Instead, there was a quiet murmur of, "Oh, that's just Eleanor," or, "Well, her toys always did have a life of their own." It's a testament to the powerful, benevolent impression Eleanor left on the community. It's like finding out your favorite neighborhood bakery is secretly run by a family of friendly gnomes. You might be a little weirded out, but you'd still go for the croissants. Anecdotes abound, shared in hushed tones over coffee at the local diner or murmured with a chuckle. During weekly market visits, little Lily, a young customer who comes in regularly, swore to her mother that the antique rocking horse always gave her a little extra push when she first climbed on, as if inviting her to play. The mother, instead of dismissing it, simply smiled and said, "Maybe Miss Eleanor wants you to have a good ride, dear." Then there's Mr. Abernathy, the meticulous delivery driver, who once spent 5 minutes searching for a specific antique tin wind-up car he'd just delivered, only to find it sitting neatly arranged at the head of a line of other tin soldiers as if waiting for a parade. He simply scratched his head, a wry grin on his face, and said, "Eleanor, you're a hoot, even after all these years." These aren't tales of terror. They're gentle, almost endearing encounters that reinforce the shop's quirky, benevolent reputation. Over time, the old toy shop has evolved beyond just a local business. It's become a quirky landmark. It's the place you point out to out-of-town relatives, whispering, "That's the shop where the toys play by themselves, you know." It's a source of local pride, a charming anomaly in a world that often feels too predictable. Its fame, though quiet and understated, has grown organically, not through sensational headlines, but through genuine word of mouth. It's almost like a secret handshake among the locals, a shared understanding of the shop's gentle enchantment. Historians still debate the precise mechanisms through which local legends and folklore are created and sustained, but the toy shop is certainly a fascinating case study in community storytelling. This organic spread of its reputation has, perhaps inevitably, turned the shop into a subtle tourist attraction. Not in the bustling tour bus-lined sense, but in a more respectful, curious way. Visitors, often drawn by the gentle whispers of its peculiar poltergeist, arrive with an open mind and a quiet hope of experiencing something truly unique. They don't come expecting poltergeist activity that makes the shop's inventory fly across the room. No, they come hoping for a subtle shift, a faint sound, a fleeting feeling of being watched by kindly, unseen eyes. They browse with a little more anticipation, a little more wonder, hoping to feel that same warmth and connection that Sarah and the locals do. It's a strange but true fact that places with perceived paranormal activity, even gentle ones, can become significant cultural sites, drawing visitors seeking not just a thrill, but a connection to something beyond the mundane. The enduring charm of the old toy shop of Eleanor Vance lies in its ability to defy conventional expectations of a haunted place. It's not a place to be feared, but a place to be visited with a sense of wonder and perhaps a quiet invitation to play. The community's acceptance, their subtle anecdotes, and the shop's reputation as a gentle landmark all speak to the profound impact of Eleanor's enduring love. And as you imagine these curious, respectful visitors lingering a little longer by the rocking horse or gazing intently at a doll, you realize that the dreams of the departed are still very much alive, quietly, playing out for all who are willing to see and, more importantly, to feel. Section 12, you've seen how the old toy shop of Eleanor Vance has charmed its way into the local folklore, becoming a quiet, beloved landmark. But in a world increasingly connected by whispers and viral sensations, even the most subtle of hauntings can't stay a secret forever. And so, despite the local community's gentle acceptance, it was only a matter of time before the more analytically curious arrived. Enter the paranormal investigators. Think less Hollywood blockbuster, more local club with a healthy dose of earnest enthusiasm and perhaps a few too many gadgets. It's like when you're enjoying a quiet picnic and suddenly a drone hovers overhead, filming your sandwich. Slightly intrusive, but mostly harmless. These weren't your typical dramatic ghost hunters bursting in with flashing lights and dramatic pronouncements. No, the groups that eventually found their way to the old toy shop were often small, independent collectives drawn by the intriguing rumors of a benevolent poltergeist. They came armed with their equipment, not proton packs, but the usual suspects: EMF meters designed to detect electromagnetic fluctuations, temperature guns to spot sudden cold spots, and digital voice recorders for electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs. They moved with a quiet reverence, aware of the shop's unique reputation, perhaps a little disappointed there wouldn't be any flying furniture, but hopeful for something subtle. It's a bit like showing up to a heavy metal concert and realizing it's actually an ASMR performance. Different vibe, but still an experience. Their findings, predictably, were as ambiguous as the haunting itself. The EMF meters would occasionally spike in certain areas, particularly around the rocking horse or Lily the doll, but never consistently enough to be conclusive. Was it a lingering energy, or just old, faulty wiring in the ancient building? Historians still debate the reliability of early parapsychological instruments in distinguishing genuine anomalies from environmental interference. Temperature guns would sometimes register a slight, inexplicable drop in a corner where a child's laughter had been reported, but again, nothing dramatic enough to make headlines. And the EVPs? Well, there were faint whispers, often too garbled to decipher. Sounds. That could be wind, dust, or perhaps, just perhaps, the echoes of tiny voices. A strange but true fact. The human brain is highly adept at pareidolia, finding patterns and recognizable sounds in random noise, which can often lead to misinterpreting faint audio as voices. Sarah, Eleanor's niece, handled these investigations, with her usual blend of quiet politeness and subtle amusement. She would let them set up their equipment, patiently answer their questions, and offer them tea. She never confirmed or denied their theories, simply listening with a knowing smile. She'd watch them pore over their readings, their faces a mixture of excitement and frustration, and sometimes she'd catch a fleeting glimpse of the rocking horse gently sway or a doll's eye shift, just as the investigator turned away, as if the spirits were having a quiet chuckle at being probed. It was clear she was protective of her shop and its unseen inhabitants, almost like a parent tolerating curious strangers poking at her quiet, unique children. She saw them not as threats, but as well-meaning, if somewhat overzealous, tourists. The rise of amateur paranormal investigation groups was a common historical event during the late 20th and early 21st centuries, fueled by television shows and a growing public fascination with the unexplained. People seeking concrete proof in an increasingly complex world turned to technology to quantify the unseen. The toy shop, with its gentle, persistent activity, became a kind of understated holy grail for these groups, a place where the supernatural, was accessible, not terrifying. Despite all the meters and the recorders, the essence of the old toy shop of Eleanor Vance remained elusive. The investigators left with ambiguous data, intriguing stories, and perhaps a lingering sense of wonder that they couldn't quite explain. The shop continued its gentle, playful haunting, undisturbed by the scientific scrutiny. It reminded everyone that some mysteries aren't meant to be fully dissected or proven. Some things, like the quiet persistence of love and memory, exist just beyond the reach of our instruments, residing instead in the heart, and perhaps in the very soul of a quaint little toy shop. And as the last investigator packed up their gear, the subtle scent of old rosewater would drift through the aisles, a quiet, knowing sigh from Eleanor, perhaps still amused by humanity's endless quest to understand the magic. Section 13. So, the paranormal investigators packed up their blinking gadgets, leaving behind a faint scent of electronics and a lot of inconclusive data. Turns out, some mysteries just prefer to remain delightfully unquantifiable. But for the old toy shop of Eleanor Vance, life, or rather lives, continued as usual. The absence of definitive proof from the experts didn't diminish the gentle hum of activity within its walls. In fact, it almost seemed to solidify the shop's unique status, allowing its daily rhythm to unfold with an enduring, subtly magical normalcy. It's like when you try to prove to your cat that its favorite invisible friend doesn't exist, and the cat just gives you that look that says, "You just don't get it, do you?" For Sarah, the shop's daily life is a seamless blend of the mundane and the miraculous. She unlocks the door each morning, the antique bell above the entrance chiming a welcome that might be for the living or perhaps for the unseen. She dusts shelves, rearranges displays, and manages inventory, often finding that some of the rearrangement has already been taken care of overnight in a perfectly whimsical, if slightly unusual, fashion. The rocking horse might be turned towards the window, as if peering out at the morning sun. Lily, the porcelain doll, might be found sitting beside a small, open storybook, as if she'd been reading late into the night. These aren't startling events, they're just part of the background hum, like the gentle creak of old floorboards or the distant sound of church bells. Sarah responds not with surprise, but with a quiet nod of acknowledgement, sometimes murmuring, "Good morning, Eleanor." Customers, too, become part of this unique daily tapestry. Some remain blissfully oblivious, admiring the antique toys for their craftsmanship alone, never sensing the subtle shifts in energy or the faint, almost imperceptible whispers of spectral play. Others, however, are more attuned. They might pause, a thoughtful look on their face, as they sense an inexplicable chill or catch the faint echo of a distant giggle. A child might swear they saw a tin soldier salute them, or an adult might feel a gentle, fleeting touch on their hand near a particularly old teddy bear. Sarah, ever the graceful custodian, never outright confirms their suspicions, but often offers a knowing glance or a gentle smile that implicitly encourages their sense of wonder. She's the quiet interpreter, the bridge between their reality and the shop's peculiar magic. It's a strange but true fact that collective conscious experiences, even subtle ones like this, can deepen a community's connection to a place, fostering a unique sense of shared narrative. In an era defined by mass production and the impersonal nature of big-box retail, the old toy shop of Eleanor Vance stands as a charming anomaly. It's a bastion of personalized experience, a place where every object has a story and some perhaps have a continuing one. The enduring appeal of traditional crafts and small independent businesses in the face of industrialization was a common historical event, highlighting a persistent human desire for authenticity and connection. And here, in this shop, Eleanor's original vision continues to thrive, amplified by her lingering presence. Her belief that she wasn't just selling toys, but finding them new homes, is constantly reinforced by the playful manifestations. The toys, seemingly, are still finding their way, still bringing joy, still inspiring wonder, often with a little unseen help. This daily dance between the living and the departed has imbued the shop with a unique atmosphere that goes beyond mere nostalgia. It's a living, breathing connection to the past, a testament to the enduring power of love, play, and memory. The fact that the phenomena are so consistently benign, almost nurturing, means that instead of being a place of fear, it remains a haven. It's a gentle reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary magic is found not in grand, terrifying displays, but in the subtle, everyday wonders that quietly unfold around us. Historians still debate the extent to which human belief shapes observed phenomena. But in this Rhode Island toy shop, belief and experience are inextricably intertwined. So, as you imagine the soft afternoon sun streaming through the shop windows, illuminating dust motes that dance in the air, you can almost hear the faint, happy murmur of Eleanor, still at work, still ensuring that every toy, every child, and every visitor experiences a touch of that timeless, playful magic. The shop isn't just surviving, it's thriving, a beacon of benevolent mystery in a world that often rushes past the quieter wonders. Section 14, you've immersed yourself in the gentle, yet undeniably uncanny daily rhythm of Eleanor Vance's toy shop, where the whispers of the past dance with the presence of the present. We've seen how Sarah, her niece, has embraced this peculiar coexistence, and how the community has woven the shop's ethereal activities into its local lore. But what of the future? In a world constantly chasing the new and discarding the old, what fate awaits a shop so steeped in history, so lovingly tethered to the spectral? Will the rocking horse always thump-thump for unseen riders? Will Lily, the doll, forever shed her enigmatic tear? It's a big question, isn't it? Like wondering if your favorite childhood video game will still be playable on quantum computers in 200 years. The future of the old toy shop feels as delicately balanced as a porcelain doll on a narrow ledge. It stands as a testament to the enduring appeal of the tangible, the handcrafted, and the deeply personal, a stark contrast to the fleeting digital diversions of our modern age. As long as Sarah, or a future generation, cherishes its history and respects its unique atmosphere, the shop seems destined to endure, a beacon of quiet magic in a busy world. It's more than just a business. It's a living museum, a continuous narrative unfolding in real time, subtly guided by unseen hands. Eleanor's enduring legacy is undeniably the cornerstone of this continuation. Her profound love for toys, her belief in their inherent spirit, and her meticulous care have created an energetic imprint that time itself seems unable to erase. Even if Sarah eventually passes the shop on to another family member, or perhaps even a dedicated enthusiast from the community, Eleanor's spirit feels inextricably linked to the very essence of the place. It's her vision, her joy, and even Lily's quiet sorrow that provide the fuel for the peculiar phenomena. Imagine her, a translucent figure, still overseeing inventory, still ensuring every toy finds its true home, perhaps even subtly suggesting a purchase to a hesitant customer. Her legacy isn't just in the physical objects, it's in the very feel of the shop, the way it makes you pause, smile, and wonder. It's a strange but true fact that some architectural historians believe that the spirit of a building can be, influenced by the emotions and intentions of those who inhabit it, a concept that feels particularly resonant here. And then there's the question of the poltergeist's future. Will the playful manifestations continue indefinitely? Will they change or evolve? Perhaps, as the shop's legacy deepens, the playful interactions will become even more pronounced, or perhaps more subtle. Maybe new forms of communication will emerge, as the spirits adapt to new technologies or new generations of toys enter the shop. It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? The spirits learning to interact with a smart speaker, perhaps playing a phantom lullaby from a streaming service. Historians still debate the longevity of residual versus intelligent hauntings, but the sheer emotional depth tied to Eleanor's shop suggests a resilient, enduring presence. The story of Eleanor Vance's peculiar poltergeist, this gentle haunting, is already being passed down through generations. Children who visited the shop grow up telling their own children about the rocking horse that sometimes rocked by itself, or the doll that seemed to wink. These tales become part of the town's fabric, a cherished local legend that adds a unique charm to its identity. This transmission of oral history and local folklore is a common historical event, shaping communities and preserving unique narratives that might otherwise be lost to time. The shop, therefore, isn't just selling toys, it's weaving tales, creating lasting memories, and ensuring that the dreams of the departed continue to live on, not just in the ethereal realm, but in the hearts and minds of the living. The Old Toy. Shop of Eleanor Vance is more than a simple antique store. It's a living, breathing testament to the enduring power of love, the quiet resilience of memory, and the magical possibility that some spirits simply refuse to let go of their joy. As you consider its future, imagine the quiet generations yet to come. Browse its aisles, feeling that familiar sense of gentle amusement and quiet wonder, forever touched by the unique, playful spirits that call this special place home. And perhaps, even 100 years from now, a child will still hear the faint thump-thump of an unseen rider and know instinctively that Eleanor is still there, still playing. You've journeyed through the dust motes and the dreams of the departed, experienced the gentle nudges of unseen hands, and witnessed the enduring legacy of Eleanor Vance's love for her wooden wonders. As we reach the end of our exploration into the peculiar poltergeist of this Rhode Island toy shop, it's clear that this isn't your typical ghost story. There are no dramatic screams, no chilling pronouncements, just the quiet, persistent hum of a world delicately intertwined with another. This haunting isn't about fear. It's about connection, about the enduring power of human emotion, and the profound ways in which love and loss can leave an indelible mark on the world, even after we're gone. It's like finding a message in a bottle from 100 years ago, but instead of words, it's a silent, comforting melody. The Old Toy Shop of Eleanor Vance stands as a unique testament to the idea that some spirits don't linger because of tragedy or malevolence, but simply because of profound affection. Eleanor, a woman who poured her heart and soul into every stitch and every carved detail, created a space so saturated with her passion that it continues to live, to breathe, even in her physical absence. And young Lily, with her unfulfilled longing for Pip, adds a poignant layer, a whisper of innocent yearning that blends seamlessly with the shop's playful energy. It's a beautifully complex tapestry, woven from joy and sorrow, play and peace, all held within the creaking timbers and dusty shelves. Historians still debate the true nature of the human soul and its potential to transcend death. But here, in this quiet corner of Rhode Island, the evidence is compellingly, gently present. Perhaps the most profound message of this particular haunting is the enduring power of play. Toys, by their very nature, are vessels for imagination, for the boundless creativity of childhood. They represent a time of innocence, wonder, and unadulterated joy. For the spirits of Eleanor and Lily, the shop serves as a continuation of this sacred play. It's a place where they can still engage, still connect, still participate in the timeless dance of imagination. The phantom playtime isn't a chilling reminder of death, but a heartwarming echo of life, a persistent testament to the idea that some joys are simply too potent to fade. This resonates deeply with a common historical event, the significant cultural shift in the 19th century that began to truly value childhood as a distinct and important stage of life, rather than merely a preparation for adulthood. This newfound appreciation for childhood innocence made toys and play far more central to family life. This entire narrative, from the quiet shifts of a doll's gaze to the shared dreams of the shop's visitors, reminds us that the boundaries between worlds might be far thinner than we often imagine. It suggests that our connections, our passions, and our deepest desires might not simply vanish with our last breath, but linger, seeking pathways to express themselves, to continue their story. It's a strange but true fact that numerous cultures worldwide have folklore about spirits attaching themselves to cherished objects, but rarely with such a consistent, benevolent, and deeply touching outcome. The Old Toy Shop of Eleanor Vance isn't just a destination for paranormal enthusiasts. It's a profound metaphor for the enduring human spirit. It's a place where the past isn't merely remembered, it's active. It's a reminder that even in an age of rapid change and digital distraction, there are still places where authenticity, history, and a touch of the ethereal can coexist, bringing comfort and wonder to all who visit. And as you close your eyes, tonight, imagine the soft, rhythmic thump-thump of an antique rocking horse gently swaying in the moonlight, a silent invitation to dreams of the departed, dreams that are still very much alive. We've reached the end of our journey into the enchanting world of the Old Toy Shop. Thank you so much for joining us on Emberlight Echoes. We hope you've enjoyed exploring the whispers and wonders of this peculiar place as much as we have. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Emberlight Echoes for more tales from the edge of the unknown, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. Until then, stay curious, and may your own echoes be ever so intriguing. See you in the next video.